Okay, so now let's dive into our formal discussion for week 3 topic. So the topic of our week 3 is to formalizing the initiation process. So last week we had an in-depth discussion on the process of initiation, and we came to understand that initiation is the very first step in the project management life cycle. Initiation begins at the very beginning, even before a project manager would start planning the actual project. So we talked about different tools and different concepts in the initiation process, and the last one where we ended with was project charter. Now, we weren't able to spend more time on the project charter, but this week we are going to spend a long time discussing about the various ins and outs of the project charter. And towards the end, we will be talking about the assessment 1, which is writing a project charter. So we will be talking all of the aspects of the project charter, and I'll give you a guideline about assessment 1. Okay, so let us begin our discussion by thinking, why do we need to formalize the initiation process? Now, imagine that you are going to work on a project and you have 10 members in that project. Now, when it comes to starting the project at the beginning, you may have all of the project members very enthusiastic, all of them, they want to join the project. But along the way of the project, there might be 2 or 3 people who might switch to some other departments or units. 1 or 2 might leave the organization. 1 or 2 might fall sick, or there could be different factors like human factors that might take over. So there could be myriad of factors that will affect the smooth transition of a project, and that is the reason that it's very essential to formalize the project management processes. So you will see that documentation and formalization is at the heart of project management. And this is the reason we are starting the initiation process with a more formalized step. And project charter is the one that gives the project a formalized beginning. So a project charter is going to be a most important document to help the project to kickstart. And you need to understand the ins and outs of project charter so that you are able to produce a very complete and succinct project charter. So for this reason, we're going to spend the entire discussion of topic 3 into a project charter. See, we have understood that a project is something where we need the involvement of multiple stakeholders. And you'll find that a lot of the times, all of the stakeholders, they will have competing priorities. They will have different requirements and they will have different demands. So given under the situation, the project manager's job is to be able to bring that right balance when the project would be able to satisfy the need of all of the stakeholders. So that's why it is very important that a clearly written project charter, which should be viewed and approved by all of the stakeholders at the beginning, so that everyone would approve the project and you get the buy-in from the stakeholders. So let's talk about the typical elements in the project charter. We talked about some of the typical elements last week, and this week let's dive into each of these one by one. Now, you will find different versions of the elements of project charter. Although the titles may be different, but by and large, the key focus of all of those different versions would be the same. So the typical elements in the project charter involves a title or an executive summary, then the project purpose or justification of the project, a project's description, key risks, project deliverables, summary milestone schedule, summary budget, project approval requirement, and a discussion about the project manager and authorization. So, without further ado, let's dive into each of these elements one by one. So the very first section is the title section, which is where you also write an executive summary. So you may have come across the term executive summary before while writing other assessment. So executive summary is a high-level overview of the entire document. Typically, executive summaries are written at the end. Once you have completed the whole project charter, you may look into the whole project charter and then write a very broad level summary. So the executive summary should be written in a format that anyone who reads the executive summary should understand what's inside this project charter. The next step is the purpose and justification of the project. You need to start with the justification, like why is this project important and what value it is going to offer. So you might need to give a bit of background about the projects and some other information which will then provide a context about the project, like why this project will fulfill the need and want on a specific phenomena. So that is what really is important. So some of the common purpose and justification of a project could be either cost savings or process improvement or new product development or customer satisfaction and likewise. So the next section is an actual description of the project. And this is where you summarize all of your SMART objectives. You also need to summarize the key success criteria. If there's any constraint, you need to highlight the constraint as well. And if there are any assumption or other requirements, all of those things needs to be highlighted in the description. But bear in mind that the project descriptions do not have to be elaborate, but rather it should be very summarized. There's one factor which will be evident than more than any other factors in a project management scenario, and that is risk. Every project will end up facing some risks, and these risks involve financial risks, human capital risk, and organizational risk. So as a project manager, your job is to be able to forecast the risks that might hinder the progress of your project. And in this section, you will have to summarize those key factors that you may assess or conceive that they might occur during the course of this project implementation. You need to have a section where you need to list all of these key deliverables, and they should be in a very summarized format, typically in a bullet point format. And this is the section where you summarize that how your project is going to satisfy all of the stakeholders' needs and wants. See, project management is all about setting the clear milestone. So in this section, you need to be able to identify all of those projected milestones and the key dates corresponding to each of those milestones. A project manager's job is to be able to achieve all of those milestones, and for that reason it is absolutely essential that the deadlines are all very clear and succinct. One of the most important elements of a project is budget. And we may just refer back to the iron triangle of project management. And we know that cost is one of the elements of the iron triangle. So cost or budget is one of the most important factors, because without the money, the project wouldn't proceed. And for that reason, you need to be able to have a very clear forecast about your budget. But budgets may not always be the actual. Sometimes it might just be the proposed one. Be it so. But the project manager's job is to be able to identify the projected budget and also probably highlight that the possible changes that might occur in which of the areas during the implementation of the project.